think we'll go ahead and get started. So thanks again, everybody, for joining us. And just wanted to introduce myself. If you don't know me, I'm Jessica Gronick, the program manager at GoSmart.
And I'm Kelsey Foster, the GoSmart support coordinator.
And we're so excited to show you one of the most requested updates from our community, template pages, designed so you can build once and reuse across programs, applications, and reports.
All right, before we get started, I just wanted to let folks know what to expect during this webinar. Everyone is muted, but you can raise your hand to be unmuted. If you have questions, please add them to the Q&A box and we'll answer them at the end of the section or during the Q&A period at the end. The session will be recorded and shared afterwards.
Awesome. Thanks, Kels. So you'll see today's topics on screen, and in just about 30 minutes, we'll walk through how template pages can simplify your work. We'll start with the challenge that this feature solves. We'll move into a live demo. Then we'll look at real use cases and best practices. And of course, we'll touch on pricing, the trial period, and of course, leave time for questions at the end. So let's start with the challenge. How many of you have had to clone an entire grant cycle just to reuse a single page, or found yourself rebuilding the same eligibility or budget narrative pages over and over, or built a page in an interim report or a final report and needed that reflected in a cycle that might already be open? We know it's time consuming, and small differences between programs can lead to inconsistencies, making it harder to keep your process standardized and efficient. So that's where the new template pages come in. You can now create a library of reusable single pages and drop them into any cycle in any sequence with a click. So for our larger clients, it ensures consistency across multiple programs and of course lends itself to just you being able to add those pages wherever you need. And for smaller teams with fewer programs, it can double as a best practices library, something that new staff can pick up instantly during onboarding.
Yeah, and I'd like to add that this is one of the easiest features to adopt. If you can create a page, then you can create a template.
Totally. So before we head into the live demo, let's do a quick poll. How many pages do you rebuild annually? And I'll give everyone about 30 seconds to type in your answer.
All right. I see a good mix of responses here, but looks like more of you than not rebuild 5 or more pages a year.
Great to know. All right, so let's jump into a quick demo and see how it works. We'll look at how to create, how to manage, and of course, how to insert a template. Awesome. So first, you're going to navigate to your cycle pages and open any existing intent to apply, custom narrative, or custom calculations page. And of course, you can do this on a new page you've just completed too. So we're, of course, showing a page that already exists, but you may have just finished building this page, and then you could go on to follow the steps that we're about to walk through. But either way, once you're on the cycle page editor, like we are here, you'll see a new button next to the preview page button labeled Create Template. So go ahead and click it, and then a pop-up modal will appear where you can name your template. And we always recommend something descriptive like budget narrative dash small grants or eligibility quiz or demographics page. And each template name must be unique, meaning that you can't have any other template page with the same name. It needs to be under 50 characters, and it can't include most special characters. But if you type in a special character, you'll see the short list of what's acceptable. So once you save it, you'll see a message reading your template has been saved and is viewable and editable in My Templates. You can either click My Templates link right there, or you'll find My Templates on the left-hand side column between cycle pages and status mailer, in case you want to get there later. So even though, so we're already there, and we'll talk about some of the stuff you're going to see on this page. So you'll see columns for a title, the page type, the assigned cycles, created by, and last edited. And then in the actions column, we'll see icons for viewing, editing, and deleting. And while we hope that this is mostly intuitive, we just want to take a second to do a quick run through of each column and action. So the title is going to be that name you just gave your template. It's also a name that you can change if you want to clarify its purpose. So we'll talk about what that looks like when we edit, but that's where that title comes from. Then the page type shows which kind of page it's based on. So again, that's going to be an intent to apply page, a custom narrative, or a custom calculation page. And you'll just need to add that page type to your desired cycle to insert the template of that same type. But again, we'll talk a little bit more about that when we get to the inserting step. So the assigned cycles column is going to be really helpful once you start inserting your template places. Once they're added to a cycle, that template page becomes independent and is no longer thought of as the template. It's just considered another page in your new cycle. And because of that, you won't really be indicated anywhere in the cycle that this page was once a template. So this is the only space where you're going to be able to keep a record of where you've inserted that template. And that may just be helpful in future years when you want to maybe do a quick glance of like, oh, where have I used this template before? Maybe I just updated it and I want to be reminded where I need to insert the newest version. So we were hoping that this might be helpful for that. And this list, of course, grows and grows every time you insert that template. All right. And then finally, created by and last edited by are just as you'd imagine, just a way to see the admin history of the template. You're going to want to note that times are in Mountain Time, and that's just because that's where our database server is. But the date is obviously going to be reflected appropriately no matter where we all are. So let's talk a little bit about the actions. Go ahead and click the eye icon to view the template as it currently exists. This is similar to the preview page option that you all have in your page cycle editor, in that it's going to open that version that your applicants see. So really beneficial to see that version, but it also means that most of the elements, while they're visible, are probably not clickable. Or if they're clickable, you certainly can't save. So even though you could click upload file, you really can't insert a file there. You can't save the page, but that's going to be, again, very similar to the preview page option. Then if you click the edit pencil icon, you can modify the template. And editing the template will not change the template in any of the cycles where it already exists. So again, remember that once you've inserted a template, it sort of becomes independent of the template itself. But it also will not change the original page you used to create the template. So if you built a great page you love, that's going to become your template. Changing this saved version does not change it in the cycle where it was originally built. But do recognize that if you modify and save the template here, those newest changes will appear whenever you insert the template moving forward. So if you built the template last year, it's your demographics page 2024, and that's how it's saved. And then you've come in and you've updated it for 2025, and now maybe you've changed the name even to demographics page 2025. When you insert the 2025 version in any new cycle, these changes you made here will be reflected. All right. And then finally, clicking on the delete trash icon will permanently remove the template from this list. But again, as with editing, deleting the template won't remove it where it already exists in other cycles, and it won't change that original page used to create the template. But deleting a template will remove all of the history from my template section, where we looked at that assigned cycle. And you can obviously no longer insert that template into new cycles. So deleting is best reserved really for getting rid of templates made in error, or perhaps templates that are so outdated that you've created a new template that really overrides it. And like deleting in GoSmart, we can't really find it for you. So if you've gone through that whole step and you accept that confirmation and say, yep, go ahead and delete, unfortunately, Kelsey and I can't grab it for you either. All right, so now the fun part. Let's talk about inserting your template into a new cycle. So you'll head to Cycle Pages and select the program and cycle where you want to add your new template. And you all know, sometimes you will come to a cycle that already exists, so you might already have some pages in the cycle that you'd see here. Or in this instance, we're starting a new cycle, so we don't have any existing pages and you just see that add new page tool. Go ahead and select your type. And that's going to be an intent to apply, a custom narrative, or a custom calculation. And if you choose any of those three types and you have a template that exists in those types, you'll now notice the new templates drop down. So you'll pick your saved template and the page title will autofill. And in this case, we're seeing that modal because this page has that multiple submission tool. We'll talk a little bit about that later, but this is just a reminder that you're adding a page with that tool. This will not always pop up if you're adding a page that doesn't have this setting. But you'll see right away that the title of that template is going to show up in the title field like we have here. We can, of course, make changes to that title here if the name of the template isn't really appropriate for applicants to see in the cycle. Then we'll go ahead and click Add. And now we'll see that that page is in our cycle. It's going to include our info instruction text. It'll include the multiple submission tool if we have it on. It will include all the content, any conditional logic. Everything that you have in that template is now in your new cycle. So some things we want to note for custom calculation pages, if you use that page and you further have some numerical informational value fields in that page, meaning that you've added some numerical item information fields that you want to add, have the page dynamically add, you're just going to want to hop in where you've added this template and sort of refresh that range field. So even though your range may not change, the system just sort of needs you to say, yep, this is the range I want again. So you'll either leave it as is or modify and then click update. And then that's going to set off that formula in your new cycle. And then similarly, if you add an intent to apply page template, you're just going to want to recheck the settings every time you add that to a new cycle. So you may remember that intents to apply have the settings down below where you determine like how does it show up in the PDF, how does it show up in your applicant's read write or rather read read write form, and also the permissions of whether or not you need to approve somebody to move forward. Those settings live here. They default back to sort of the originals for the template. So whenever you add that template into a cycle, you'll just want to peek here and either keep as is or modify and update just to make sure those rules are appropriate for this cycle. All right, so I know those were some nuances, but by and large, you're basically going to just always go back to that cycle pages section, the add new pages area. Oh, I'm sorry, like back on the cycle pages where you're actually adding stuff is what I wanted to show. Sorry, thanks, Kels. So you'll basically, just always start with that add new page, select your type, select your template, click add, and then you're done. Exactly. Perfect. So before we leave the live site, are there any questions or does anyone want to see any of that again? You can, of course, always ask more questions that we'll answer at the end, but if you want to take a peek at something while we're here, that's great too. And if you do, just go ahead and raise your virtual hand and we'll unmute you or throw something in the Q&A. And we'll just watch for that for a second. I think we will continue on then. All right. So what are some of the most common ways you'll likely use the templates pages? There are 5 we expect to see the most, and they all, of course, center around that one theme, building once and reusing across your programs.
We'd like to walk through each one of these with some quick examples. No big technical deep dives, just some ideas to spark your imagination.
Totally. So one of the biggest time savers that we hope to see, of course, is just simply reusing those recurring application pages that are likely to be valuable in more than one program. Core pages like project description, org history, or required documentation. So for instance, some of our larger users, like our state arts agencies like Hawaii and Kentucky, reuse project description or documentation pages across multiple programs. So turning these pages into templates could save hours each year. Once you've built a strong page, we'd recommend that you save it as a template and drop it into every future cycle.
Yeah, and this helps a lot with consistency too. If you update one of those pages, it's easy to make sure your team uses the latest version across all programs.
Totally. So another common use case might be those intent to apply forms. Many organizations use these to screen applicants or collect basic statistical information or demographics before the full application starts. And usually those are probably going to be pretty streamlined across your organization. So once you've built one that works well, you can reuse it across every program, just adjusting those settings for each cycle.
Exactly, and that consistency helps avoid confusion if you're reviewing eligibility across programs or implementing any new vetting policies to existing programs.
Totally. So next we'll think about mid-year and final reporting. So instead of rebuilding interim and final reports for each program, you could create a standard template and then insert those every year. That way, all of your data, metrics, narratives, uploads line up across programs, which make your evaluation process so much easier.
Yeah, and this feature is incredibly handy for mid-year forms, like Miami Beach's quarterly reimbursements. You can use the same structure for these recurring forms so you don't have to rebuild them every time. It's also really great if you need to update a form mid-year, like an interim or final report. You can make those changes once and quickly reflect them across all your other open cycles. Finally, it's so valuable when you report to a primary funder like the National Endowment for the Arts. If they require a rigid set of location data, you can create one GEO report and add it to each of your programs. This ensures your data is uniform across every program and every application.
Totally. For those of you using the custom calculation page, you'll love this. I know it's a pretty nuanced page, not everybody uses it, but you can save these pages as templates, formulas, and all. So these dynamic pages are great for financial summaries that don't require a table. They're also terrific for asking for informational numerical data, such as demographic stats like board ethnicity, where you want to see the makeup add up to 100%. Or conversely, if you want to capture things like itemized sales of tickets versus, maybe um, concession sales versus seat sales, things like that. So this page is among the trickiest to build, and now you can do it once and add it everywhere.
And like we said in the demo, just remember to resave any of those sum numerical info fields when you reuse them, just to make sure your calculations are working correctly.
Totally. And finally, this is one of the use cases that we're most excited to see moving forward that obviously hasn't really been able to exist yet. And that's going to be creating a repository for onboarding your new staff and also just being helpful for your existing staff. You can save all of your best pages, reports, and templates in one place so new team members can plug in proven materials instead of starting from scratch.
Yeah, this is such a simple way to preserve institutional knowledge, which is so important, especially when teams change or when teams grow.
Totally. So let's take a second and look at some best practices when considering how and when to use your templates during your GoSmart journey. We hope these tips will keep your setup clean and make your move to templates as smooth as possible. So a lot of as you're thinking about building every year and how templates will now help with that process, you'll probably first consider, are you cloning an existing cycle or are you perhaps starting fresh with a new program and cycle? If you decide that cloning is the best option, but you'll be removing a few pages to replace them with templates, we recommend selecting your simplest cycle so the deletion and replacement process will be simpler. Alternatively, if the majority of your cycle will be templates replacing existing pages, we actually recommend that you maybe create a new program and build your new cycle from scratch. And we'll talk later about something to do with those existing programs. It could be much easier to build with templates when you're not fighting old pages or outdated settings.
Absolutely. And if you're cloning an existing cycle and you will be replacing certain pages with new templates, delete those old pages first. So you'll need to remove any fields inside the pages before deleting the page itself.
Totally. And regardless of the journey you're taking, again, whether cloning and reworking an existing cycle or building from scratch, now's the time to add your new reusable template pages.
Yeah, and then like we said a couple times now, after inserting your templates, revisit any custom calculation pages and resave those some numerical info fields. And for the intent to apply pages, double check those settings so the pages work exactly as expected.
Totally. And then once you've begun to build and save templates, we recommend keeping up your library on a regular basis by ensuring that you have a solid naming convention structure, one that makes sense for your team, that you're occasionally reviewing and updating outdated templates, and that you're removing any superfluous templates. Keep your strongest pages as templates and encourage your team to reuse them. A small curated library becomes your fastest training and consistency tool.
All right, and as just hinted at earlier, if you're going to go the route of creating new programs that you can start fresh cycles with your templates, we recommend that you archive your outdated programs. Our suggestion is that you navigate to the grant editor and go to Programs, click on the name of the outdated cycle, add a Z-outdated prefix to the beginning of the name and a suffix with the included years to the end, like 2020 through 2025. This will move those old programs out of the way by alphabetically forcing them to the end of your programs list, but also keeps them accessible if you ever need to access those older applications and the data for those cycles.
Exactly. We hope these steps give you a cleaner, more sustainable structure, one that's easier to maintain and expand year after year. And we hope that you can see your workflows in some of these best practices.
Yeah, and these quick habits save time every season and make sure your GoSmart setup stays consistent and easy for you to navigate.
Mhm. All right, so how might you get started? If you're already on an unlimited plan, great news. The feature is already included in your subscription, no setups required, and when you log in, you'll see this My Templates section. For everyone else, we're offering a free trial. So we're going to give everybody 2 months to create a single template and insert that template into one active cycle to test it out in real life. And if you'd rather wait because you're not going to be building your new grant seasons for a couple months, no problem. You can always reach out when you're ready to start building or launching your next grant cycle, as long as it's within the next 12 months. And we'll turn it on then.
Yeah, and after that trial starts, after about 2 months, we'll check in with you. If you started building multiple templates or you're using them in more than one program, we'll go ahead and activate annual billing so you can keep on using templates without interruption.
Totally. Which brings up a deeper question that I'm sure everyone's curious about. What does all this cost? So the Template Pages Builder is going to be a $300 annual add-on that syncs with your current service period. So that means if you have us turn it on mid-year, if you're not renewing in the next, couple weeks or months, you'll be billed for it that month that we turn it on, and then it'll roll into your regular renewal moving forward. So no need to manage separate schedule. We've also created a bundled package that'll maximize your value. You can opt to pair the templates page tool with an unlimited number of multiple submission cycles for just $500 per year. It's definitely the most cost-effective way to get both features together. So if that's a tool you've been thinking of as well, or you're already using, this might be a great way to get a real bang for your buck.
Yeah, that's a great plan, honestly. So once your team exceeds the trial limits, we'll simply add the feature to your contract so there's no disruption to your work. That way you can keep on building without missing a beat.
Exactly. But if you are in the middle of your trial and you realize, yes, this is absolutely a tool that we're going to use moving forward, no need to wait for that 2 month trial to come up. If you want to just reach out to us as soon as you're ready, to sort of have it turned on, then we won't have to be lurking and see how you're doing. But of course, we're always happy to do that too. Um,
Mhm.
so let's go through a few questions that have already come up as we've been doing some beta testing and having some conversations. So will changing a template affect pages already inserted?
Nope. Inserted pages are completely independent. You can safely edit templates without changing any existing pages.
Totally. And in the same vein, what if I delete a template that's already in use?
Luckily, it only disappears from your library. It stays intact in any cycles where it's already been used.
Great. Can I save budget tables as templates?
Not yet, but please let us know if copying and pasting isn't cutting it for your use case.
Yeah. How is this different from the clone tool?
Yeah, well, cloning is great for nearly identical repeats. You can't just clone one page and use it. However, templates let you do exactly that. Save one page and reuse it anywhere.
Hmm. Can I try before I buy?
Yes, you'll get a 2-month free trial to build one template, test it in one active cycle, and then see how much time it saves you.
Great. And then last, why is this being packaged with the multiple submission tool?
Yeah, this is a really great concept, and I'd love to explain it. This pairing gives grant administrators the most flexibility and long-term value. Just as a refresher for folks who aren't using this tool currently, the multiple submission tool lets applicants complete the same page multiple times within a single application, such as when you're collecting detailed information about several projects or venues, or gathering repeatable data like board members or key personnel. When you pair that functionality with page templates, you can save those complex, repeatable pages once and reuse them in any future applications or reports with just a single click. Multiple submissions let your pages adapt to each applicant's needs, and templates help you bring that adaptability to every grant you run.
Thanks so much for that, Kelsey.
Mhm.
All right, so we're coming up to the end here. So just to recap, with template pages, you can create and save your most used pages, manage them in a central library, and insert them instantly into any of your grant cycles. It's faster, more consistent, and easier to manage across your team.
All right, so let's open it up for questions now. You can drop them in the chat or raise your hand or unmute yourself. We'd love to hear what you think.
Yeah. And as folks are starting to ask their questions, you'll find links on the screen to our Help Center, the Template Builder tutorial, and of course our support email, all ready to help you get started. So take a peek at those and jot them down if you want. And I do see we have a couple of questions already.
Yeah, hi Jessica.
Thanks, Anne.
So we have a question from Kim Davis. How much is an annual subscription for one user for a nonprofit? And then they also said, info, this is a cool opportunity just have to assess whether learning how to use templates slash switching over to this process will work for us.
Awesome. Thanks, Kim, for being here today. I know you're not a user, and it's so awesome to have you with us. Um, uh, an annual subscription can cost, totally depends on your usage. So I think what you're asking is just sort of like, what does it cost to come on to Go Smart? And the most basic price is probably going to be $2,500 for your first year, and then as low as $1,500 thereafter for a single application launch. So if it's okay with you, I'd love to chat with you maybe just after this and get a good sense of how you might use the system. And then we can definitely get you a quote that'll really align with your needs. But
All
thanks
right.
again for being with us.
Okay, and then we have another question from Macy. Can you speak again about how this will help with activity locations with final reports?
Absolutely. So, Macy, remind me, do you use the current activity locations template? Cool. So our thought was, I know that the NEA asks for actually two separate sets now of activity or rather location information. That geolocation info that they've been asking for just the last couple of years, we never made a template for that because it was newer. And we knew that we were going to be building this tool. So you can do two things. You can either continue to use our activity locations page as is for part of the questions that the NEA asks, and then build a template that just asks the GEO questions, or you can cease using the current activity locations page and just create a new page that incorporates all of the NEA questions around location information. And we are going to hop in the coming weeks as well to the NEA site and build our own template, what we might recommend. So I would love to either chat with you as we're doing that and we can maybe work on it together, or if you have a couple weeks and you're not just about to start your new season, if you can give us a couple weeks, we're going to get in and try to build our own sort of geo template that we could then share with you. Awesome. Cool. Well, we'll reach out then and see if it's a combo you want to have together, if you want to just wait for us to present you with what we build. Awesome.
Okay, awesome. So we're so happy that you're excited to clone pages. We know it's going to save everyone a bunch of time.
Totally.
All right. So for any answers to any questions didn't get to ask today, please visit our knowledge base linked at the bottom of your GoSmart portal. Look for the specific template pages tutorial, or please reach out to us anytime at help@gosmart.org.
Yeah. So thanks again so much, everybody, for joining us for all your great questions. And as we've said so many times, we so appreciate your time and your insights and your enthusiasm. We are so excited about this enhancement.